Hi and welcome back to the Tormek live sharpening class, and it's our 6th episode. As usual, we're here in our Tormek studio, but for you attentive viewers, you see that we have a bit of a different background. We moved a couple of meters to the left to our wood turning corner, which perhaps reveals also what we will be sharpening today. We will be sharpening wood turning tools, and we will be doing that the Tormek way. We will be using almost all items in our WoodTurners kit, the TNT 808. I will come back more in depth what that contains and also all the different tools we will be sharpening. Before I proceed, I thought I would introduce myself. For those who haven't seen the episodes before, my name is Sébastien and I'm a country sales manager here at Tormek. I have Western Europe, South Africa, New Zealand and Australia. And with perfect timing, he's back, the sharpening doctor, after a bit of absence, well rested and ready to dance with the machine. I'm very glad to have you back, Wolfgang. Welcome back.
Thank you.
You can present yourself back.
Yeah, as Sebastian said, Wolfgang, hello, and maybe you know me from the other classes we have done in English. So I'm also country sales manager for Central and South Europe. And back the camera, we have Victor, the first time in wood turning.
Yes.
Too, but a few times behind the camera since our new face here.
Yeah, he's getting a regular behind the camera.
Absolutely.
Welcome, Victor. Good. I thought that I would let you, Wolfgang, then start showing us what the WoodTurners kit contains. So Victor, perhaps if you come a bit closer, and
So this is how it looks when you get it, nicely packed. A beautiful case where you can store and organize your tools, and they're fixed. And yeah, it's a perfect thing if you don't have it in your workshop. You can use it anyway for many other ideas. And maybe we do some creative.
what you could put in the
Yeah, exactly. Use it
Tormek case.
else in the Tormek case, except the tools, the jigs. Okay. We have here one off packed up, a little bit dirty, already used, is our profiled leather hooning attachment, the LA 124. We will place it then later on the machine on the side. You have here a machine cover, because in the workshop it's mostly dusty, so it keeps your machine nicely clean and not so dusty. Underneath we have one of the vital packs here, the WoodTurner's instruction box, which contains the most important part here, the charts in 4 different languages with all the different settings, how it looks, different angles, and for what this grind is perfectly used. And then the handbook would explain all the jigs in detail with pictures. And very good to understand and very didactic. And of course the DVD with all the films. If you don't have any DVD player or Bluetooth player, we have all these films also on the, no, it's fixed here a little bit. So
before we keep going, I thought that we could discuss a bit more about the Tormek Recipe, as we call it.
Exactly.
So the Tormek Recipe is something, there are all different type of theories and preferences all over the world in wood turning. So in Germany they like certain angles, in France others, in the US perhaps others. This we have taken with help of different professional wood turners. We have found some intermediate way that we think will fit most wood turners.
Exactly.
And this is the result. Of course, you can do a lot of other settings and so forth, but this is a recipe that we recommend and that I think is good for the everyday wood turner all over the world.
For the beginners, just to get the standard, because there's no standard. There in America, different standards than in Central Europe, and all countries have their specialities. Exactly. So, but this is overall a good guide for the most things, and there are always 3 installations or adjustments sometimes only 2, but mostly 3, which we have here on the labels. These are all the yellow markers. They are also included here in the kit. The labels, this is in the kit here. You can use and put on your tools, a marker and a pen, give notice for it. And this is also vital for the recipe. It's one of the main parts to get the right distance from the universal support in relation to the stone for the different recipes, and on the other side different protrusions for to achieve different shapes and angles. Yes. So this is the magic, and also here a nicely detailed booklet.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I just thought it was good to discuss a bit
Absolutely.
around the recipe and different theories in different countries, because perhaps people looking at that chart say, but this is not what I learned. But it's really, you don't have to travel very far to find complete different ideologies of right angles and so on.
Absolutely. And this is the Tormek way we sharpen, just fast, repeatable, always the same bevel, not starting many different facets and bevels on chisels or on bowl gouges. It takes less than 30 seconds, you have a sharp tool again.
Yeah.
So this is our way and recipe, especially for newbies. It is very good to get the standard, to get into the wood turning, get the right shape on the tool, because when you buy the tools, they're not shaped. And this is the most mistake that people have, or have problems when they sharpen, they discover, oh, it doesn't fit.
No.
So because you have first to shape it, to grind it, and there we have a good tip, the BGM 100, which is in the end a package. Maybe you could have had it here, but I remember it now. It is in the end also a booklet, of course. It is a universal support and a metal block which you mount next to your bench grinder in relation, and then you use all the jigs, everything in the same manner, and then you can just get rid of more material if you want.
The first time you want to shape the tool from the Tormek recipe, it can be done with the Tormek machine as well, but it takes longer. If you're a bit impatient, the BGM 100 is a good solution to shape it the first time.
And
should you show the different jigs we have?
Then we have the SVD 110, the universal tool rest for many tools, and even some, if you don't have any jig or suitable for your tool, sometimes a good rest to get help, to get a little bit type of fixation when you're sharpening, and a support. And then we have the SVS 50, now here mounted with a closed seat, and here's the part when we exchange it with the open seat. We will show it with the different tools. Then we go further to the SVD 186R. This is R is just with the small screw here in between. The old model hasn't it, so it's just the 186. Same function. This is just gives you some more comfort for special tools, or goat feet, V-shaped tools, for example. And then this pin we can show you to exchange, demount all the jig for the WoodTurner scrapers, turning scrapers. Then you have all these tools in the portfolio. You can sharpen it.
Should I show the different tools?
Yes.
So if we start here, we will be using first of all the SVD 186 that Wolfgang showed before, and that works perfect for the bowl gouges. For the spindle gouges, this is a German version, this is a more European version. Then we will show for the turning scrapers, so this little piece, they may look different also. This is round, but all kind of shapes works, teardrops and so on. You use the SVD 186 together with this. We will show how to fixate that later. Then we will be using the SVS 50, and that works, and this is the open seat. We will be doing roughing gouges. We will also be doing different kinds of parting tools. Then, still with SVS 50, but with the closed seat, we will show you how you rearrange that afterwards. We will be doing different types of skew chisels. So we have with a straight edge, and we have with a rounded edge as well. And finally, we will be doing different types of scrapers, and we will be using the SVD 110 with different scrapers. Good. Before I let Wolfgang loose on the machine and do what he does best, sharpening, I just want to remind you, the viewers, that this is live, so please ask questions and we'll try to answer them as best as possible during the way. If we feel that there is a question we are not able to answer or that we don't have time and you feel you haven't got your answer answered, please post a commentary below afterwards and we will answer them in writing after the show. Good. The floor is yours, Wolfgang.
Perfect.
Please go ahead.
So I dance then with the machine.
You should dance with the machine, yes.
So just we mount, as I said, just on the outside between the knob and the ladder wheel. So we are prepared for honing. Even you have different diameters we have and different angles. This is more for the V-shaped and this is the rounded. It's easily no problem to mount a second exactly to it. Then you have 4 different versions. It's absolutely no problem, but for the most tools you don't use it, but this is also possible. When we go over to the wheel we use today, we go for the diamond wheels. I explained a little bit more about the diamond wheels after I've presented the normal stone, which is supplied with the machine, the SG 250, our standard stone, 220 grit. You can sharpen your tools also on those when you just turn once, twice a year or 3 times a year, and occasionally. It works fine. The only thing is you will wear down the stone a little bit faster than compared to the diamond wheels, or the next better choice, the black stone. The black stone here is our silicone stone, which is a little bit more aggressive, but the same grit, 220, which is special. We took them, designed it for HSS steel and hard steel, and it is more. Has more stability in the surface also. Doesn't get grounded as fast as the standard stone.
That is probably a stone that most of you woodturners have seen or know, because that has been the go-to stone amongst woodturners for many, many years.
Absolutely.
Until the diamond wheels came,
yeah.
I think it's 2 years ago now.
Because the big advantage is you can, with the SVP 650, our stone grader, change the surface and the grit. But don't do it with the diamond wheels. Absolutely forbidden, because then you have destroyed the wheel and it's ready for the bin. And for the diamond wheels, for the black stone and for the standard stone, there's a small tip, because some people ask it when they sharpen and have everything adjusted for the chisels, and there's really perfect adjustment vital, and then they want to rough up the stone, or if it's a little bit round after bolt gouges, to go back with the support, fix the stone, through the stone, back again, then they have always to check the angle and everything again. So my little advice, get a second universal support, then you can use the TT50, just go very, very lightly over the black stone. Then you have a wonderful rough and aggressive stone again, without changing here anything, and then you can really immediately go back to your sharpening. This speeds up the process immense, but never on the diamond wheels. No. Never we put it direct away. The big advantage for the diamond wheel is always a flat surface. You have also surface here around on the outside, which is also coated with diamonds. So you can have also really flat grind for your chisels, for example. Or want to speed up the sharpening for the chisel when you have a little bit of hollow grind. You make this in the beginning and then just the hollow grind a little bit on the outside, and you get on the edge and the heel just slightly sharpen. Speeds up the sharpening process also extremely. So we can show how to fix it. This is a little bit a speciality.
The advantage with the diamond wheels, I would say, especially perhaps in wood turning, is when you have spindle gouges or bowl gouges, you often create small grooves in the stones.
Yeah.
So as you said, you have to redress it often. Here you will never create the grooves.
It's
Another
always
advantage is that you always have the same diameter. You will always be at 250, which when the stones will become smaller after using them. This means that you never have to reinstall things. So for example, you can go between the different grits of the diamond wheels and you're all set to go, just change the wheels. So that is also an advantage.
Exactly, they're so precise in the diameter, you don't need to adjust or play or think, just exchange the wheel, and this is also very fast, just that way, because some we have heard had problems to get the wheel or the stone off. It's very easy, because when you go that way, it's a left threaded disc. You don't need tools, and it just take it off, water throw off, disc off, just on it, start the machine, and it's
What also
good to go again.
What also could be said is that it's possible to run the diamond wheels dry.
Dry.
We recommend it with water.
And of course, then you need the ACC 150. This, because it's steel, it starts to rust, and you have metals in on the top, so it will destroy your wheels. This is a protection, not only for the wheels, even, most people forget it, for tools.
Yes.
Especially if you're normal steel tools, not HSS, because even HSS is rusting and gets stained, but in a slower mode than the others. So this also keeps your tools safe, and you can, in the evening, when you have finished your work, just pour through a coffee filter the water in a marmalade jar, lock on it, and then you can use it next day again or next time. So you can really save also the money, what we shouldn't say, but we want to sell them, of course. No, it's just a joke, but really you can use them just in a marmalade jar through a filter, and then you have no metal parts in there. And then therefore, as we said, you can change between the different grids. This is the coarse with a 360 grit. This is when you get, for example, your tools, when you have to reshape them, or to shape them, give them really a nice shape first, when you have to remove more material. So this is this type of wheel you need, but for sharpening it's much too rough. So, and then we have an extra fine down there, which is, I can show it you, but it's for wood turning. It's for the high-end turner with very small tools, and which just more or less very slightly go over. For the most wood turners, and in the standard it's the fine with the 600 grit, absolutely perfect.
What we should say also is that we're using the TA today. Everything works perfectly on the T4 or T3. The small machine, or all the old versions. So everything is reversible on our old machines as well.
Absolutely.
Important perhaps to say.
All the jigs fits on all the machines.
Yes.
And maybe one little bit disclaimer is if you have the old one, the 185, which is here a little bit smaller. I know there are many out there. These spindle gouges, the big ones, don't fit in there.
It's a bit smaller, the hole,
yeah.
but it
and
works.
For the Ellsworth grind, that means you have the flanks very long on the side, and you will end up, you can't do it with the old one, with the new one, because this small sleeve here is a little bit shorter, so you can really touch the stone, because you have a 1 centimeter less width on a T3 or T4. But with the new one, it's no problem. And in that case, if you have an old 185 and the T3, then you have to sharpen not from the horizontal position, but then you have to go to the vertical position and sharpening from the top, which is quite aggressive, of course, to the stone too. But it's possible. So,
should we get going with the bowl gouges, I think?
Absolutely. So, for the bowl gouge, and as I said, we have so many tools and so much to talk about. What we're doing here now, we show how to clamp them, to fix it. You get the recipe, how you can repeat, but we can sharpen all the tools from scratch to the end in 1 hour.
Yeah,
we can't do it.
We already used up most of our hour, I think. So.
Yeah, so you are more interested in how to do it. So the recipe says here, I'll show it to Victor in the camera, it's A75 and 2. So that means we have 2 holes, A and B. So we'll use A, then we will use 75, it's a protrusion, 55, 65 and 75. So we'll use the 75. And number 2 means this tool has small screw here. The old one, the 85 has the Allen key, but it's the same thing. And we have here the big advantage, we have a click. So it's 0, 1, 2. And then just make a fixation. And this is also, you have to just screw it. And then when you check the small arrow up, number 2. So then we go for that. Hole A, we put on the universal support. And what we're doing is here, I have another one, which is on the wrong side. Victor can't see it. It's a good thing to make just a marking on, because what we do, and small tip again, always try to adjust from the machine, from the inside out, because then you can adjust much better than from outside into the machine. So we go just a little bit more. We can adjust really fine, you see, until both touch the surface and roll. Then you have absolute perfect, and then you just fix the screws, and you can place it here. Then I've set 1, 2, and 75.
Did you show properly how set?
Yeah. This on that side, number 2, it just was checking. And then you go 75, just until to the top, hold here the tool, and then just get fixed. Now, if Victor shows from the side, beautiful, goes always over. So it's very easy to repeat. And a little bit tip there too is, when you start grinding, a diamond will not the same pressure as you have on your stones. Maximum, I think, always when you press a little bit and your fingertip gets white in the nail, absolute enough. Because then you have a long lasting diamond wheel, otherwise you will grind down the diamonds too fast. And I start always from the side. I give here the pressure. With that hand, I give just the movement. Because don't make this from the backside. You have too much pressure, you can't control it. And I go very close to the stone. That means really you control your movement. The farther you are away, the more difficult it is to control. And I start from the side. One reason, if you think you have 500 grams or 1 kilo of pressure on that surface, it's less pressure. But when you start in the middle, then you have just a very small and narrow area with the same pressure. So we'll ground much more aggressive and more material here than on the sides. So what I do, and this is why I dance with the machine.
Yes.
It's I start from the left, and I'll show you a little bit more to understand for you. On the side, a little bit more pressure. I come up, less pressure, a little bit more pressure. And this is a natural movement I have always here anyway. This is just prevent you for one big mistake. When I see out in shows, the most tools, they have a really sharp tip, or in that case, a rounded tip and small higher points on the side, because they sharpen too much pressure and too much in the middle. So then immediately you get a hook. What you want also is, if you look horizontal to on your tool, you want just a nicely concave shape, nicely bent and equal on both sides. If you go over here, that it's flat and then nicely round. And the same thing is when you look in the front or from the back side, that the tip is nicely rounded and bent, not too sharp or in negative. Then you will get always hooks. So this is, as you are used to shape the wood on the lathe, you shape also your tools on the machine. So it's not only people think one, like here, 1, 2, 3, 4, finished, that's true. But when you have the wrong pressure, then you are totally out of it. So you start from the left and to the right. And if Victor comes behind me, I can also, especially people don't know how much should I go to the side. When you look on the stone, you see where the water line or slightly a black line in the middle, a very fine line. This is where you're sharpening, where you actually on the stone. So you can really over, and then you see beautifully, there's no secondary bevel. If you see, we are totally even, exactly repeated. Then you get really sharp edge, but then you get the burr, which we want to get rid of it, of course. And this is for different recipes. You give just different angles, that angle, or longer flanks, shorter flanks, depend on the protrusion and that angle. And this determines the outcome in the end of your shape. And what we do here is to get the burr off from the inside. We have here the half round shaped, and we go just in here. And what I do mostly, the first 2, 3 seconds or 5 seconds, I polish the inside, because the inside here is the mirror side, like on a chisel. This is your future edge, not that here. It is just the inside. The better the inside is, the better your edge is. And it's just go in horizontal, like as a tangential. At 12 o'clock, you will reach the point, and you see the small black particles, and then you can round off and get rid of them. And sometimes you see a little bit still left glitter. I don't know if Victor is seeing this. Still a little bit there. And this is also bent then on the outside. I do it mostly freehand, like this. Give this just a nicely touch. But for you which are not used to it, you can use just also that way. Go around to the other side. Just have to stop the machine. The same thing, hole A, because the diameter is different. Then we have to go a little bit more inside until we touch. It's the same, but we don't need to polish the complete bevel. We can go a little bit more further out so that the bottom is a little bit lift from the leather. Fix it then just to get in the 75 protrusion that it already the same. So you see how fast you can mount your tool, and then you can do the same here if you feel more comfortable to polish. So it's all the dirt on the leather. It's coming off here. Just over a little bit of paper. And then you have a beautiful sharpened tool. So this is the securest way. I recommend it for you when you're a beginner. When you go just another tool, we have here, show to Victor, you see there are two bevels on it. It's mostly when you make bowls or blades or something which is maybe a little bit, you have to go, you turn inside and the heel is in the way. To get rid of the heel, you can maybe have 1, 2 or 3, sometimes one really a little bit more rounded here. Then you make more facets, it's absolute no problem. Here we have 65 and A, so in that case we have the 65 instead of 75 for that shape. Going over again, also A. So again, a little bit more out. Just really precise. Again. And this is the way when you would sharpen. When you're finished with sharpening, you just open the big screw here. This glides up and then you go just, you have to open this too, all the way up. And then you touch just the heel and the bottom, and you take away as much as you want. Or if you want much more, then you can go a little bit more in, and then next step more in, next step more in. The rounder you can make it if you prefer. So you can achieve all different shapes there too. So especially for the spindle gouge, when you make Christmas trees, maybe also eccentric turn, which you have the Christmas tree and you go underneath, around it deep in there, then you want the spindle gouge like a profile gouge, maybe much more rounded, or more like a tip, and then to get off the heel also more and more, that you can really get in very indefined and narrow openings. So this is also possible. So these are just the standard grinds. You can take more away as you want.
I would say one of the biggest advantage with the Tormek is that since you are so precise, you're so fixed, you can repeat the same angle in just a matter of seconds, time and time again. And even for we talk often about less sharpening, more turning.
Absolutely.
And it's really, people are not perhaps sharpeners, they're turners, they want to turn. But it's important for them to have good sharp tools, fast and
easy.
Yeah.
Without thinking about angle. Everything, the recipe is here. It's the same, still number 2, you go in 75. When you just come from turning and it's not sharp enough, still fix it on A, and then you're exactly again.
And that's really a huge advantage.
Yeah.
I wanted to add also that perhaps, as you said in the beginning of the show, if you buy a bowl gouge and you have a complete different shape and you don't really know which are the settings I should set and so on, this chart is really good to go to. There is a slight short explanation. It shows the different degrees and also how the shape looks.
It looks like this is meant like this. Here you see we have this 275A, this is that one. You see.
So you know perhaps approximately which shape you want, and then you just do the settings after that, and
Exactly.
you shape the tool after that. That could be good for a beginner that buys a complete new set and wants to shape
Because
the tools.
then never perfect shaped in a
No,
shape.
exactly.
So
Should we go on to the spindle gouges?
Spindle gouges, exactly. We use also the same jig.
Yes.
The only difference is it's on both the same recipe, the same other numbers, and the huge difference is that this is compared to the English. We will go. This is the English roughing gouge, and this is the German roughing gouge. Most popular in the countries. You see different countries, different styles, and this is also the same size. Just you see the shape is then the profile gouge for shaping. This is more for roughing. And this is also an old one. And then we also maybe can answer this question, which mostly come in wood turning. I don't hoon because I prefer to have the burr, because the burr cuts. That's true, like you have on the drawing blade for the carpenters. And there's only one truth, or there's something between. It's a generation question. Grandfather and the father, they said, well, the burr is cutting because they used this type of steel. It's an old, 100 or more than 100 years old Peugeot. It's very heavy compared to this one. This is HSS and this is tool steel. And then I would say if you just look on the material, it's more like a sugar bit. It's more crystalline and it's more like a chewing gum. So you get much more burr here, which is finer. And this cuts here, this burr, it's breaking off and will destroy your edge. This is a little bit like a foil. It's not so extremely harmful to the edge, but still, without a burr, it's much better in cutting. But the materials have changed. This is more or less the explanation with or not. And then it's your preference, of course. If you prefer it, you think it's better, there's no one saying this is right or it's wrong. As long as it works for you, the same with the angles. If you use someone else's tools, it's not the same angle.
No, we don't like to say what you have to do, which angle is right or wrong. As long as it works for you and you feel comfortable turning.
Exactly. So, just to show you, with the same recipe, different results in the shape. It's just clamp bit. Again, we have 55 protrusion, so the short one. Go forward, 55. And we have the number 2, still number 2, nothing to change. But we have the whole number B. This is that one which is quite close. I'll just take this off easier. So, yes, both are rolling. So, and I think I know that it's not exactly in the angle, because we're sharpened, we have to go a little bit more close. It's not exactly precise. You see a little bit the bottom now. I'll adjust it. So, what we do is just stop here. See, we don't go all the way through, and then over, stop here. And then we don't go further. For the other tool, we go a little bit further on the side. The same, everything is the same. Also protrusion is the same, 55. The short one, the shortest we have here. And then what we do is we go much further down here. We don't stop here, we go much further. And how long you see, you can go quite long. You can determine your shape. What do you prefer? You can go much further, take more from the side if you want. And this is same recipe, just more movement. And this is what you'd have to decide in the shape for which purpose it is. So this is just slightly bent and this is much more used. These are big ones, you have smaller ones, but it's exactly the same thing. Depends who want to use it. The same, it's a spindle gouge and a bowl gouge. Just the angles are different. Yeah.
Perfect. I think we will try to answer a couple of questions until
course.
we go further with the turning scrapers. We have a lot of questions. I don't know if we have time to answer them all. We had a couple of different questions regarding diamonds and the diamond wheels and so on. The duration of the diamond wheel, or the life expectancy of the diamond wheel. We know turners that has used it professionally for 2 years or more, but it's a bit also, don't put too much pressure on it.
Depends how you use it, wear it, how to maintain them, and it's difficult to say, but it is the same with the normal stones. If you have a lot of pressure, a lot of rounded tools, you have to drew it very often. It will not last as long as someone who has light pressure and keep the stone always flat. So, but roughly the same. Yeah,
roughly the same. And generally, what I would like to say, don't choose the diamonds because you want longer life expectancy than the black stone. Choose the diamonds because you prefer its qualities. The life expectancy of the black stone compared to the diamond wheel, 50-50, I would say.
It's the same. As I said, and the biggest advantage is the shape. It's always flat. It's the same diameter. You can choose the different grids and walk between without adjusting. So it's a time saver. And it's an alternative, which is especially for woodturning perfect, because when you have a lot of bowl gouges and then go back to a chisel, then you have to drew. You save the material, you save the time. So
good. Then we had questions about CBN contra diamond. I won't go into depth about that. We have chosen diamond because for our system diamond is perfect.
The speed.
Since it's a low speed machine, we will have a more in-depth episode further up ahead regarding our diamond wheels. What I could say is that diamond is twice as hard as CBN, and therefore it's a big advantage for us.
And even they don't last longer.
No. Then I had a question about diamond wheels for the T4. We don't have anything planned about that. It might show up in the future, who knows, but it's nothing planned for the moment. We also had a question where someone said that the T2 diamond wheels is applicable on the T4, and that's correct. You can put the T2 diamond wheel on the T4, but the T2 diamond is not tested for anything else but knives. It's not diamond plated on the outside, and it's also not made to run in water. So that should be said.
Absolutely.
So the diameter works, but it's not tested. It's not the idea of the T2 diamond. Then we had a short question about the SVD 186 compared to the SVD 186R. What are the differences and what are the advantages? I would say that in wood turning, that the R is completely unnecessary.
Exactly. It's more for the V tools.
Yeah, for V tools and other.
In a special case, I can show you then later when you want to sharpen on the outside.
You can also go back to our. We have episodes back for example, wood carving and stuff where that could be used. But for the wood turning tools, just use the SVD 186 and you're good to go. We have a question if the selection charts can be downloaded. I don't know actually.
I think there are on, especially when you download the handbook. It's online. Okay. I'm pretty sure it's online.
Otherwise, we will look it up and answer you in the commentary below afterwards. Then we had Tom R. asked, for making custom shapes with the SVD 186, how do you independently control edge angle versus geometry? Table on page 21 in the wood turning book shows the effect of different jig settings and edge angles.
Yeah, this is very difficult. These settings, which are the more common in the 5 degrees, different 40, 45, it is a scientific topic, but you have to test it, have to test it, because it's also depending how the bow gouges are designed. There are different shapes of the flute of the inside, which are more like U shaped, more like a sinus cuff with a little bit more a tip, more or less like wider, or there are so many shapes which, or thickness in the bottom of is the same thickness around, or the bottom thicker and the side. So this all gives determines the shape of the bevel. So this is a question which is not easily or normal to answer. You have really to have the tool, and you have to test and try these shapes.
Yes, great. We have a couple of more questions, but I feel that we are
going further. Yep.
Yeah, we
maybe
need to move ahead.
Maybe they get answered during
the presentation,
yep.
hopefully, or we will try to answer them in writing.
So what we do, we just take the tool apart. We want this screw, we take out of this, we place the shaft in there, take the screw and just in the bottom, and then we are ready to go. On top is a screw, which you can unlock with the Allen key here, and then have already prepared the disc, and then you just mount it here, and then you see, Victor, this is 8, 5 and 4 millimeters. This is always the holes here, it's the standard in the industry, 8, 5 and 4 millimeters. And then you just place it here. This is 8 millimeter, goes all the way down. If it would 5 millimeter, it will be just once above. You can't get deeper in there. Take the screw, place it in there. It's a little bit difficult. I have not cut once my finger, I have to do with the left hand. On the left side, not in the thumb in the index finger, not a perfect feeling. A little bit handicapped for these finer works. And then just fix it here with the screw. And as always, with all Tormek screws, just when it's done, it's done. Even those screws, I see very often people screw too hard. Just when you get stop, then it's stopped, it's enough. You don't need more. You always, otherwise you will destroy it. So we talked always about our angles to get the angle, but in that case it's difficult. We make just our Tormek marker. We mark the bevel black. That way, I see when you, from the side already, a little bit still to on the top, and yes, this is the advantage when you go out here. If Victor sees, really you can adjust very, very fine until it touches the surface, so it looks quite good. Let's go just draw. Still, it looked good, but you see, just in the bottom, still have to go further out. Just slightly. Yes, you see, now I got all the way through. And then just fix it, start the machine, and then pressure here, the side, and here you turn. And then you go around. And what you see is, for example, we are not touching here, a little bit more in the middle, because it was sharpened maybe on a stone with a finer diameter, but it's very, very little. It's a hundredth of a. So, and if you have just one the same diameter, like on a diamond, and you see also, I don't turn only on one side, I go a little bit over the stone. So, nicely. And what you see when I stop, that you don't get a flat surface when it's on here. I have pressure, then so I make it a little bit more visible, but when I go, I leave a little bit the pressure, that you really get a nice perfect round one. And you set, you see, always perfect sharp edge again. all the same. So easy.
And
to
quick.
do.
And all
And quick.
different kind of shapes, teardrop,
Yeah,
and
teardrop,
so forth.
thin, thicker, teardrop, triangle, squared, whatever shape, it doesn't matter. It's then just one side, the other side, and teardrops, the same thing, just follow the shape.
Perfect.
Absolute easy.
I got help from Tormek Sharpening Innovation here, and they asked them a question. You could download the selection chart if you register your machine on tormek.com. So you were right, Wolfgang.
Yep.
Tom R is also asking, is there a way to follow up on my questions about custom shapes offline? Of course, Tom, we will do our best to answer you offline. It's easier. Please send an email to support@tormek.se, and they'll make sure that either me or Wolfgang gets it, and we try to go more in depth.
Absolutely. And
questions.
maybe it's good then just to send also a picture of the tool on the tip, how the shape looks.
Pictures
Speed up.
makes it easier. Yeah.
Forwards and backwards we can check. So
SVS 50, open
Next.
seat, roughing gouge.
absolutely. Next jig, SVS 50. You see collateral damage, how sharp the edges of the small little.
You have done a good job.
So when we fix it, always the flat side to the machine. So always, we have also here a recipe, 45 angle degree of the bevel, 55 and B. But I want to show you also here the method with the pen, which is also easy. When you don't have your setter to the hand, it's just the same thing. Is just make it black, go there, just from the side. Oh, we are quite, have to go quite a bit. Well, it looks not so bad. You see? Just it's half a millimeter. Go a little bit in there, and then it should be perfect.
I often say this during these live sharpening classes, but I want to stress it. It's important to take your time when you make the exact settings, because that will gain time in the long run.
Always the same bevel, otherwise you have many bevels, and in the end you don't.
No, but like you said now, there is just a millimeter, but you still correct that millimeter because it will help you in the long run.
Absolutely, because
good
especially
to emphasize.
Chisels, when you get sometimes tools and shows with different bevels. When you start turning and you go from top and turn in and you have one bevel, it's much smoother than you have different, which is the right one,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is the cutting edge. So that's important. So the same thing. Here again, I hold and roll just on the surface. I start also on the side, and I go always also here over the stone, round it, pressure with that hand. With this is just guiding and holding against. And then you have always the black line where you see where you're sharpening. And as you see, just a little bit here. Get nicely.
What could be mentioned here also is if you see Wolfgang how close he works to the bevel with his fingers, it's a good way to control the tool when you sharpen.
So again, you have here the burr on the inside, exactly same bevel, no secondary bevel. We don't sharpen, take too much material off, so the lifespan of the tool is also much longer. We don't destroy anything of the material, there are no tempering and nothing, so we have always the hardness of the steel all the way through, which you don't have when you go on a bench grinder. And as soon as you have sparks, it's more or less gone. Even in the tip, it goes very fast. For this tool, what you want also to achieve, especially for those who are beginners, it should be flat and not rounded, deepened in the middle, because when you get immediately a hook. when you're just roughing in the beginning, no fine working, just the bark. You have the bark, and on the outside you have stones, dirt. It takes off immediately the burr, so there's not absolutely need from the beginning. But when you go further in the material, then I would just here hoon it to get rid of it. And this is exactly in the same way. You do it from here. You start in the beginning, lifting on the bevel, hold again, and then you can also the inside.
What you're saying is it's not as important to have a perfect finish on the roughing gouge, because that won't be your finished material compared to a bowl gouge, which will
exactly
the finer
the paper. Yeah. So then you have a perfect edge, very razor blade sharp, and when you see in the front also, these sides a little bit more straight and rounded, and this a little bit more straight, because some people just make it round, and then you will discover that the edges falling back. They are a little bit straight for one reason. You have the roughing gouge, you cut a little bit here, but then in the end, when you're on the final work, you can use it like a chisel, flat over. This is the reason why they are a little bit straight here on the side. So more or less two tools in one. There are many out there who never discovered it.
No.
And sometimes you have to repair them because they're extremely rounded.
Perfect. We move on. Parting tools.
Yes, parting tools.
It's the same for all. They look a bit different, but it's the same idea for all of them. Even if it's just on one side.
Yep.
It's the
or
same.
sometimes you have very thin ones, but wide ones with one big rounding and a small tip on the opposite. Also, just the ratio of the curve is different. So it's always the same same to sharpen. And then we use also the open seat. I have to open a little bit. You have also the recipe here, B75. The English doesn't matter because it's the radius of the stone. You go in there. 75. You stop the machine. And in the middle, just a little bit. So, and it's fixed like that. Clamped, total stable, no problem. The whole B. And the little bit advantage is, of course, when you use the recipe, and it's much easier because sometimes you have mostly A or B. When you go in between, as we have done now with the roughing gouge, with the marker method, this is not, depends what you have for protrusion.
Yeah.
So then you have much more to adjust. Therefore, use the TDS 50. Saves you a lot of time. And then just, you see, easy. You get with the two numbers, the distance, the whole B, and the protrusion. You get the right position. When you sharpen these, if Victor. Carl was before filming. Victor, when you, can you see this here? What I want to show is that don't do this, because you have this surface on the bottom is so little. What you do is a little bit moving. You're moving like this, a little back way. And that way you get this movement, and then you will round up this tip. You want it absolute straight. So it's much easier to sharpen it. This. So you can use the stone or the diamond wheel really evenly. And then you get a really perfect nice, and you already feel the burr. And then just the other side, the same. Yep. that's it. So easy.
Perfect.
That's that one. Then we
that's it.
take the other.
Skews is, I think we should move on to skews because it's the same theory.
Different shapes, the same thing. Sometimes the bedan is only shaped on, not on both sides, only on one side. Exactly the same.
Yeah, same technique, same
thing.
Same way to set it in the jig. Should we perhaps show how we change from the open to the closed seat?
Yeah.
It's
just we take off the long screw and this in the bottom we take out. I have it all, I think, somewhere here, these two. You place it in here. Yeah, this screw I have a little bit out fixed there. And always here, this to stop, then you have the 90 degrees. So, that's it. And then I think on that, try to see which is, it's both the same. You see the grading here, the scale. This is the angle you can choose. And when I use it, I look in here, because when you look like this or look like that, it changes immediately. I go really straight in. I start on one side, and when the surface here is vanishing, it's flat, then absolute straight, and then you get really nice angle.
So we go for the skew chisel.
There we the whole B. We have still the same B, what we use now. 55 and 20 degrees. That means I go for 20 degrees. It's not my tool. I hope it is. I want just to go in there from there. So then you have 20 degrees. So, and then we open that screw, and there's some little bit special here, small tips here. You see that shape here. This is quite thick, but you have very fine ones. Just open that a little better in the sound, maybe. It is white here. In some oval-shaped tools, it can be fine, and then the chisel can move a little bit. So there's sometimes good to have maybe a match or something in the bottom, or a little bit a rubber or cork bit, just to fix it that it doesn't move on that side, because when you're on the stone here, and there's a little bit like that, then you never touch the same bevel. So this is a small trick for smaller tools, or because they're handmade and not perfectly in the shape. Here it's wider, it doesn't matter. Important is also here in top. That's it. And then we have just 55 for, 55. And the long side in the opposite of the screw. This is also important. You clamp then on the right side, the long, and then just fix it. And then if you look on from the side, then you see it's all on the same bevel again. And then you can sharpen that side, turn around because it's totally centered. Same thing from the other side.
Perfect. And when it's rounded, you perhaps can use the same tool and you just show.
This is important because I have one question. I don't know if he's watching today, because I don't get exact the shape on his tool, because maybe you have a different shape. You have to grind it off, as I saw on the picture you sent me. You have to grind all the way over, because this is symmetrically. This is the new form, because maybe it was freehand done before, or you bought it. So now you get it totally symmetrically, but you have to grind off this part. And the same thing, you go in with the long side here. Here is 75 protrusion. So in the bottom you see exactly fits. Sometimes when it's smaller, then it can go a little bit over the side. There's good to have some in the bottom a little bit. From a wine bottle, the cork, cut off a thin slice, place it there or some matches. It's good. And we have 30 degrees for that. So we go 30 degrees flat in stone. And then what you use is, you see the shape here. One is a little bit angled and this is straight. We use this as the turning center. So that means we place it here, you see, flat on here, flat on really in the corner, and then we make this movement. This is the turning point. We slide here, but don't go over, otherwise it will go down. We will make also that rounding because we want just a normal shape. And then it is just, you go over here, you see. This is the movement. Same is on the other side, already here when it's not straight. When you go too far, and you touch the corner and you fall down here. So therefore, you see, this is important. Really just, then you get your nice rounded. You see, we don't scratch a new one. It's always on the same bevel again. So this is the beauty when you have all the adjustments and everything right.
Then it's easy.
Yeah, and just a small tip for the last scrapers, just this one, when we have this in, we jumped over, this is a little bit important point. When you have your chisel, you don't know the angle in the tip. 55. Use a small carpenter's square, or this side is also good. Just on the stone here, we take the small, thinner one, and just make a 90 degrees line on it, because then you can adjust manually and align it to the line. Over, so. You see? So you can do either way if you don't know what angle it is. So you can get it really, so because sometimes it's very difficult to slide a little bit like that, that it is maybe 1/10 of a millimeter, but gives
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, a heck of sharpening again, because you get a second bevel. So this is.
We are a bit over the hour, but we will keep going. We apologize for that, but time flies when we have fun, and I think it's important that we don't stress through it, so we get through all the tools properly.
Yep.
Wolfgang, I will let you do the scrapers in a minute. I will just answer a couple of questions, because I feel it's important that we answer questions along the way as well.
Prepare.
Nicholas asked, I may have missed in the beginning, which of the two diamond wheel is recommended for normal turning? I would recommend the 600 grit is the perfect intermediate. So for turning, we recommend for the general wood turner the 600 grit, the diamond wheel, fine.
Absolutely.
How often should I replace the water inhibitor when using diamond wheels? The water inhibitor doesn't evaporate, so not very often, I would say.
No.
Every now and then.
Exactly. When you use it, and then in the evening you just, as I said, through the coffee filled in a marmalade jar, and you see, oh, it's just a little bit more water, a little bit more liquid to fill it up.
Stephen also asked, when do you recommend using the extra fine wheel after the fine wheel? In turning, often I don't find it necessary. Absolutely. It's more in wood carving or stuff like that. You will always, when turning, end up with a bit of sandpaper. It will be less sandpaper if you took the extra fine wheel, but you will still have a little sandpaper left. So the fine is you don't have to go the extra
No.
step, I would say.
Except you have maybe very fine tools, you make small stuff very...
Yeah, then the extra fine could be...
but normally for the...
and that's how it's in wood carving also. It's often very small, fine tools where you want a fine finish. So that's... Stephen is also asking, how serious is it to use the wheels dry? It's perfectly okay to use the wheels dry, the diamond wheels, not the original stones. Why we don't recommend it is mainly because you will have a lot of dust, which is metal dust, which is not good for you health. So that's perhaps the main reason, but it works perfectly fine to sharpen dry.
And there's one thing what I discovered: when you sharpen a lot on big surfaces, the metal gets magnetized through the friction, and then you get small bubbles, or then sometimes comes up like a bit. So the water is just always clean. Yeah. But it works.
Perfect.
Also.
And then Jim is saying, I called you sharpening doctor. Jim is saying Wolfgang is the grandmaster of sharpening. So that's, I think it's. I was going to take the comment away, but I chose to tell it. Sorry, we keep going. Scrapers.
Okay. Scrapers. Also, different shapes, doesn't matter, same principle. In the handbook, is it described from the horizontal position? I'll show you both ways. What is personally what is the difference, and then you can decide what is your preference. So the most important thing is just to get that position that you don't touch with the tool rest here on the stone, and I go just optical like that, fix it. I can go a little bit closer because it doesn't change the angle, but as the closer you are, that's the better. So optically it looked good. I marked it black just to find the right angle. Do the same thing, scrape a little bit and see, it looked good, but it wasn't good. See, these are these tenths and hundredths of millimeter. You will immediately see here. Just move it a little bit up, a little bit more. So, you see, I've touched now all. So, when I sharpen, again, the diamond wheels, I hold it here flat on it and just follow the shape. Not too much pressure, because then when you go all the way back, then you are more likely to get more pressure. So I just hold it here and then you don't need to stand behind the machine. You can also stand next to the machine, because this is a huge movement here, which is much easier. I go this. And follow just the shape. And you see, maybe it depends how Victor is, you see, beautifully same bevel. And if Victor goes a little bit back, so see a little bit my body, what I'm doing. It's like wood turning. You're used to use your body. Use it also here when you sharpen. This is what Sébastien said always, dancing with the machine. You see, you have much better control over the tool when you move complete with your body, and instead of try here behind it, because this is in the way, and it's much easier. What happens here in that position, this is what I want to explain the difference. When you press too hard, especially with the stones, get a little bit harder, you get a movement with your tools upwards. If you don't have that control, it happens less with the diamond, but more with the stones. Therefore, I prefer with the stones, I go in that position. But then you have to change around, of course. So we don't do the fine work now with the angle. It's the same analog I've told you. But when I hold here, kind of go a little bit more closer to the stone also. So when I go here, you see I have just much less movement because it's only my finger holds, the pressure comes here, I must just that movement. It's much easier. And I got the movement against it. Here I got the movement upwards. The only difference is if you prefer slightly a bigger burr here, is that method not good because you take the material from here backwards. In the horizontal position, you take the material from the bottom to the top, so get a little bit bigger burr. This is what you prefer. If you don't like a burr for really nice, smooth works, just polish it off here, flat on the surface. It's gone.
Great.
The other scrapers, just different sizes, different shapes, it doesn't matter. And with the diamond wheels, I prefer the horizontal position because it's not as aggressive. Because when you come quite in a steep angle against, it's quite aggressive. It's more smooth to the trailing side. But I think for that tool, we have to go. I see. For some shapes, you have no choice. Then you have to go a little bit up. Don't touch the. Again, you marker, you blacken it, you find through the angle, and then again here, just put it in here against with the finger, and then you just go around and follow the shape. You get pressed against it, and there's important when you go in this steep angle, really not much pressure on the disc, because diamond is so hard and brittle, it takes away anyway your facet. Again, this is just 2 bevels from Glen Lucas. It's the same thing. I go on the horizontal position, just follow the line, and then after a while you just go a little more upward for the second bevel, just to remove it. It's just different angle. But mostly you just take just tiny bit in from the cutting side, and then from time to time you take that. So
great. Thank you, Wolfgang.
That's it.
It's quite a comeback. I knew this would suit you perfect for your comeback. It's always fun to hear someone passionate speak about something they're really into. And also always a pleasure to see you dance with the machine. Thank you, Victor, for bearing with us. I understand you're tired in your arms after 1 hour and 15 minutes.
15, oh, this new record.
A new record, exactly.
New record.
And especially a big thank you to you, all the viewers, for watching. If you feel we haven't answered all your questions, please put commentaries below and we'll answer them in writing, or email support@tormek.se with pictures of specific tools or whatever, and we answer it there. Until next time, stay safe and stay sharp. Thank you.
Bye.